this week of What's for Dinner. This week is just gonna be a little bit shorter just because I've been doing so many crock pot meals lately. So stay tuned for that video. It will be coming out on Friday and you'll get a lot more meal inspiration in that one. But for today's video, I have 3 easy recipes for you. They are meals that my kids ate really well and I think your family will really enjoy them. So let's go ahead and get into this week of meal ideas. For this first recipe, I'm just making a rigatoni pasta. I have shared this recipe before, but it's a super good one. So I'm just starting off with 1 pound of pork sausage. Italian sausage would be even better in this. And then I'm adding in about half of a diced up onion. And I'm just gonna make sure to cook this all the way through. Once the pork is completely done cooking, I'm just getting a little bit of the grease out of the pot. I actually saw this tip over on Julia's channel and I thought it was genius. You don't actually have to pull the pork out of the pot. You can just throw a paper towel in there and it will kind of absorb all of that grease up for you. Such a great tip and so handy to not have to use a strainer for this. And then I'm adding in a couple scoops of minced garlic and I'm just letting that cook up for probably like 30 seconds until the garlic is nice and fragrant. Now to make the sauce for this, I'm adding in 1 can of petite diced tomatoes, and then I'm also adding in a full can of tomato paste. I know it sounds like a lot, but this is a really good, rich pasta. And then I also had about 1/3 of a jar of marinara sauce in the fridge, so I'm just using that up. Or you could also use tomato sauce here and then just add in some extra seasoning. And then you're just gonna kind of bring all of this up to a simmer. For seasonings, I'm adding in some basil, some Italian seasoning, some oregano, onion powder, garlic powder, as well as some salt and pepper. And then to cut some of the acidity from the tomato paste, I'm also adding in a little bit of sugar. I'm sorry I don't have exact measurements here, but I would just play around with it and see what you like in yours. I'm also adding in about 1/3 cup of chicken broth and just get that mixed in there. Now all of this is gonna come up to a simmer while you're getting your pasta boiling. So into my other pot, I'm going to get my rigatoni boiling. I do have 1 full box of pasta here and I am salting the water a little bit and then just cook those noodles until they are al dente. Once those noodles are completely done cooking, I just drained them off and then I'm adding them right into my pot with all of the sauce. Now you don't have to mix it together if you don't want to. You could just serve the sauce over the pasta, but I definitely prefer this way in this recipe. I think it just flavors the pasta so good and I absolutely love this pasta dish. It's very easy to throw together and our whole family loves it. I just serve it with a little bit of Parmesan cheese on top with a veggie on the side, and it's a perfect weeknight dinner. For this next recipe, I'm making one of my husband's favorites, which is a buffalo chicken ranch pizza. He absolutely loves this one. And you're able to throw all of the meat in the crock pot, so it's super easy. I'm just spraying my crock pot with a little bit of oil, and then I have 2 large chicken breasts, or you could also use 3 smaller ones. And then I'm adding in about a tablespoon of ranch seasoning mix, and then I have this medium wing sauce. I am using about 1/2 cup, but you can do a little bit more or a little bit less, and you can also add more later on if you want it to be a little bit spicier. But I'm just giving this a really quick stir together, and then I'm going to cook this on high for about 4 hours just until all of that chicken is completely cooked through. About 1.5 hours before supper is going to be served, I'm just getting my pizza dough mixed up. So I have about 2 1/4 teaspoons of yeast. I do like to use the quick yeast. And then I'm adding in 1 cup of warm water and getting all of that mixed together. I'm gonna let this sit for about 5 minutes before adding in the rest of my ingredients. So after those 5 minutes have passed, I'm adding in about 1/2 teaspoon of salt, 2 teaspoons of olive oil, and then I start off with adding in about 2 cups of just regular all-purpose flour. We will be adding in a little bit more gradually, but you're going to start off with 2 cups. And then I'm attaching my dough hook, and you're going to put this on level 2 of your stand mixer just for a little bit until everything starts to form a ball. Now for the rest of the flour, you're gonna add it in just like a couple tablespoons at a time. You don't want to add too much or your dough is gonna get very stiff and hard to work with. You'll know that it's done when you kind of press your fingers against it and it's not super sticky anymore. You'll see what I mean here in a minute, but just keep adding in a couple tablespoons at a time until you get that nice consistency. Once your dough is no longer sticky, you're ready to let it rise. So I'm adding a little bit of olive oil to a separate glass bowl, and then I'm adding that dough right into there, and I'm just gonna kind of coat the olive oil all over this. You do want to make sure that it is pretty well covered. And then I'm just gonna cover this up with a towel and let it rise for about an hour. Now while that's rising, I'm getting my buffalo chicken ready. So I'm just pulling out the chicken out of the crock pot into a separate bowl, and I'm gonna be using a hand mixer with this because I do want to get this pretty finely shredded, but of course you can also do this with just 2 forks. And then once your chicken is completely shredded, you're going to take all of that sauce from the crock pot and just mix it in with the rest of the chicken. Now if it's not spicy enough for you or you just want a little bit more sauce, go ahead and add a little bit more buffalo sauce at this point. After about an hour, the pizza crust is completely done. It has risen. It should be about doubled in size. You're just going to punch it down and then flip it out onto your pizza sheet. I have to say this is a very foolproof pizza dough recipe. This is the one that actually comes with the KitchenAid. It's pretty much the only pizza dough recipe that I've ever made from scratch, and it turns out really good every single time. It's a really good texture, and I've just been very impressed with it. So if you are starting off with making your own pizza crust, this is a great recipe to try. I'm just pre-baking this for about 5 minutes in a 400-degree oven. Once those 5 minutes have passed, I'm going to be adding on the rest of my ingredients. So I'm just keeping this very simple for this buffalo chicken pizza. I'm just taking a good amount of that buffalo chicken and spreading it all around the pizza. Now I'm actually not using all of the buffalo chicken for this. I actually froze some of it for later on this month. I'm going to be making some freezer pizzas, so that is what the rest of this chicken was used for. And of course, I'm adding on our favorite cheese. I usually will use the Colby and Monterey Jack blend for this pizza. I think it turns out really well and it complements that buffalo chicken. And then I'm drizzling on just a little bit of ranch. And then this is gonna get baked in a 400-degree oven for about 15 minutes or so until everything is completely cooked through. Once it comes out of the oven, I do like to add a little bit of butter just alongside the crust. I think it gives it such good flavor and it makes it really nice and soft. And then this is it for this meal. Just serve it up with a veggie on the side. It's a really quick dinner. It honestly doesn't take much effort, and it's really fun to make your own homemade pizza. For this next dinner, I'm making a Mexican rice bake. Now, it's not the prettiest dish in the world, but it has such good flavor, so it's definitely one that you want to give a shot, especially if you're working on a budget, because this is a really good budget-friendly option. So I'm just starting off with a pound of lean ground beef, and then I'm adding on a little bit of seasoning. I just did some garlic powder, some salt and pepper, just to give that beef a little bit of extra flavor. Now, mine was still a little bit frozen in the middle, which is why it looks a little funny here, but when it was about halfway done cooking, I'm just adding in 1 large onion as well as 1 large pepper. I actually had a couple small ones, that's why you see a couple different colors here, but I'm just going to get all of this cooked up together until those peppers start to soften and the ground beef is cooked all the way through. I am adding in a little bit of extra salt, pepper, and garlic powder here just for some extra flavor. I love when those flavors stack up together throughout the whole dish. I just think it tastes so much better that way. Now, once everything was nice and soft, I'm adding in 1 pint jar of salsa. Mine was some fresh salsa that I had actually put into the freezer, so mine was still a little bit frozen here, which is why it looks a little bit funny. And then I'm adding in about 3/4 of a cup of chicken broth, 2 tablespoons of tomato paste, which was also in my freezer because I always freeze the extras. And then I'm also adding in 1 tablespoon of taco seasoning, and I'm just gonna let this all come up to a simmer. Now my dad was actually over to dinner on this night and he's eating a low carb diet right now, so I just pulled a little bit out of the pan and put it into a separate little pan for him, and he actually ate his with some cauliflower rice instead. But to the rest of ours, I'm adding in about half a can of corn. I did make sure it was rinsed, and then I'm also adding in a can of black beans. You guys know we really love black beans in our house. They're a really good way to add some extra protein. And then I also had probably about 2.5 cups of brown rice that was already cooked and ready to go in the fridge. So I just threw that right in there and let all of this warm up together for a couple of minutes. This was such a quick and easy dinner and my kids absolutely loved this one. I ended up throwing in probably about a cup of cheddar cheese in there and letting it all kind of melt together. You could also just put this on top, but I did think it tasted really good melted all throughout. This is a great leftovers meal. We had it for quite a few days in a row and we did not get sick of it. You could also throw this one in the freezer, but this was a really delicious dinner. Alright guys, that is going to wrap up this week of What's for Dinner. I really hope that you enjoyed it. If you did, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. Hit that subscribe button if you have not already. I do post a new What's for Dinner every Sunday. I have a crockpot series going on right now. I do food prep, grocery hauls, other food related content on my channel. So if that is something that you're interested in, make sure you are subscribed and I will catch you guys in the next video. Thanks so much for watching. Bye.
As a young girl, it feels we're mine. We played hide and seek for hours, raised our shadows among the pines. So offshore, playful and free, without a care.